Hello and welcome to this painting guide. In this guide, I'm going to take you through a nice, quick and easy way of painting an American War of Independence Minuteman. I'll also be showcasing the new clippers and glass files from Wargames Atlantic as well. So Wargames Atlantic, I recently brought out some clippers and some glass files. It's a new concept for me. They're really, really nice though. You've got some nice rounded bits and apparently you can clean them in water once you've done with them. So you've got a couple of shapes and sizes there. Now they're perfect for a couple of things. So looking at the clippers, you can really get into like some of those deep nooks and crannies when you're clipping your models out of the sprue. Sometimes some of the bigger clippers can be quite chunky and end up like leaving bits on there, but you can get a nice flush cut with these, which I really, really like. They've got a nice little bit of grip to them as well, so they don't go flying off your hands. Now for the files, you've got a nice rounded one, which is really good for getting some nooks and crannies. So any kind of like little details you're struggling to get into, they're perfect for that. Also a nice large flat one if you have some really chunky bits of sprue left over from cutting. Just a couple of rubs over the surface area and it will remove any of those little bits of flash left over. But my personal favourite feature is this pencil tipped round part of the file, of the rounded file. Really, really good for getting some of those smaller areas, certainly things like muskets, and those muskets have little straps on them as well, so really good for getting in there as well. So a perfect little addition to your filing needs. Now to begin with, I'm going to get some bootstrap brown. I'm going to use this as a dry brush because I've undercoated my Minutemen in a dark brown. You can always spray it in black and then dry brush a darker brown over first, then do this. Entirely up to you. So I'm just going to get some bootstrap brown and then dry brush. This is mostly going to be things like straps, boots. I'm also using it for the tunic on this particular guy. It's a really quick way of getting colour on a model. Also helps pick out some of those little niggly details you might not notice when you are beginning to paint. Then I'm going to pick out his musket with some rifle brown. Nice fitting colour. So I'm going to paint the whole musket with some rifle brown. I know it's rifle brown, not musket brown, but you get the picture. So I'm going to paint that all over. Second coat if needed as well. Sometimes you might need to. Then I want to add some colour to the clothes. So I'm going to go with deep ocean blue. So initially I was just going to do the tunic on this guy, but then I decided, you know what, actually I quite like the idea of doing his trousers the same colour as well. So I decided to do the trousers ocean blue as well. Again, it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. You could do the coat this colour and leave the trousers brown. Obviously mix and match it however you want to do your Minutemen. But I quite like the look of this colour. It's kind of fitting. Feels like a very American blue. Now for his socks, I can get some ancient stone. In places I might have to do a couple of coats because I am doing quite a light colour over quite a dark undercoat. But that's fine because all it takes is just a couple of thin coats. So all I'm going to do is just apply one thin coat to start off with, work my way around the whole sock or socks. Again, be mindful not to make it too streaky. And then once I've done that, I can just apply a second coat. Again, really straightforward. Don't have to be too mad. I could do like several different colours, but I just think the same colour applied a couple of times is probably better. Then for the skin, again, depending on what kind of skin colour you want to do, I'm just going to go for some Caucasian skin here. I'm going to use some Paratrooper tan. So just work my way around things like the hands and the face. Again, in some places you might want to apply a second coat if it looks a bit wishy-washy, but actually Paratrooper tan has got quite a nice coverage to it. Obviously a lot more pigment in there. Then I'll get some Brigade Grey for any like white details. So that's going to be like the collar and obviously any cuffs that might be shown through from his nice white press shirt. So again, just work my way around doing that. And then pick out any black details. So his tricorn, I'm going to pick that out black. So just go around. Again, with that dark colour, you're only going to need one coat. Now for his ammo bag, what I did do was use that same black and just thinned it down. You could use Grim Black from Armory Paint, which is a speed paint, or you can just add a little bit of water to your black, just to use as a thin coat. And of course, a little tie in his shirt as well. Don't forget that. Then it's a matter of picking out any silver details on the musket. So again, just work your way around. If you're not sure, you can always look at the painted models on the box or on the website, whatever works for you. And that'll depend on the musket you're painting. Some will have some brass details as well. We'll come to that in a moment or two. But just get the silver on first. Now for any brass, or I guess gold in this case, I'm just going to pick out like things like the buttons and stuff with that. Buckles on his boots, look quite nice, being kind of gold. You can do them silver, no right or wrong way. And then any brass details on the actual musket, I'm just going to pick out with this bright gold as well. And any more buttons I forgot about too. And then just a matter of just doing some little tidy-ups here and there, because that does happen when you are painting. You do make mistakes. So just going around to tidy up any mistakes where I've splodged. And then I'm going to coat the whole model in wash. So I'm going to use some black night here. I'm going to apply that all over. Again, in some places you want to be mindful if it pools, so just keep that in mind when you are applying it. And if you do see it pooling, just dry off your brush and then just soak off any excess. That's a really nice quick way of doing it. Stabbing it here and there helps remove some of it as well, like I'm doing here. Now with that wash thoroughly dry, what I'm going to do now is do what I call the tidy up stage. This is a key stage before you do any highlighting. It's just a nice way of getting some extra punch from the colours you've already applied. So it's the same base coat colours, you just picking up the raised areas so you're getting a little bit more definition. You don't have to do that. You can just leave the model as it is. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just something I like to do. Things like his socks as well. Again, I'm just going to pick out some areas, not all of it. Mostly where the light's going to touch or where there's more extremities. So like around the calves and stuff. More often than not, when I do apply this, I'll apply it a little bit more thin down than when I initially base coated as well, because it just covers a bit better. Again, add a bit more punch to the white because the wash will have knocked that back a little bit. But again, you got some nice definition in the recesses. And then just going to pick out some extremities on the skin as well. So on the hands, things like the knuckles, etc. Got a little fingertip, veins if you want to. And then around the face, I'm going to do things like cheeks, brow, nose, lips, ears, maybe, if they're obvious. You don't have to go too bonkers. Maybe I'm going a bit too far. I don't know. Now for some highlights, what I'm going to do here is get some of that rifle brown. I'm going to apply that to the tunic. Now I know I dry brushed all over, but in some places it just adds a little bit of extra punch to the edges. And also you can do some little jaggedy highlights, which are just like little stabby highlights, which makes the tunic look a little bit tatty, just like I'm doing here. So if I run my brush down in a stabbing motion, it just looks a little bit scratched and a little bit worn or threadbare. Again, work your way around, take your time, have some fun. It is paint after all. And if you do make mistakes, you can always tidy back up with previous colours if you feel the need to. Again, just do a little bit around his boots as well. Just add a little bit of punch to those boots. Really fancy it. You can do some scratches if it's like a big leathery coat. Make it look a bit tatty and old. Just going to drop a little bit of black in the eyes. I did a little bit too much, I think, on the right eye, but that's fine. I can tie it up with a little bit of flesh in a bit. But I'm just going to go around with some black right now. What this is for is, you don't have to, this is just a stage I like to do. Sometimes some of the areas where like the socks meet the boots or the hands meet the sleeves, just needs a little bit of help, so I tend to do that. So that's just my way of bridging the gap. And then for the satchel, I'm just going to add a little bit in the center there, just to make that a little bit darker, and the same for the strap. And I'm going to highlight that with a little bit of grey. So this is uniform grey, so I'm just going to pick out the odd little edge here and there. So that's going to be for the cartridge bag. I called it satchel earlier, but man bag, fanny pack, what do you want to call it? I know it's actually got a technical term, so don't kill me in the comments. Just going to highlight his tricorn as well. See? Tricorn, said that right. You're going to tell me that's not a tricorn now, aren't you? Then I'm going to do a couple of little highlights on his blue tunic with some abyssal blue. Again, very much like I've done on the other areas, just like little highlights here and there, just where the light's catching. Again, I'm not going too mad. You could highlight every edge if you wanted to, but life's too short, especially if you've got like loads of these guys. If there's 32 in a box, then you probably want to cut down some of the highlights here and there. Again, some jaggedy highlights here and there as well, if you want the cloth to look a bit threadbare. I imagine, you know, they don't get a chance to go to the tailor every day, unless they're in the Sunday best. Fight the British in your Sunday best. That's the way to do it. Just add a little bit more ancient stone to the calves there. Just felt like it needed a little bit more. Now, yeah, just for these extremities, I'm just going to use some barbarian flesh. Just a bit more pinkier, a little bit more redder. Perfect for like things like cheeks and nose and stuff like that. And obviously knuckles. It's been punching some red coats of those knuckles. And in some places you might just want a bit more punch to the gold, because maybe the wash knocked it back a bit. And there we are. That is our guide on how to paint American War of Independence Minutemen. Stay tuned for more guides, and very soon I'll also be covering how to paint a Grenadier of the 5th Regiment of Foot.